Beneath our feet, the world is a silent witness. Each layer of soil and stone is a page in a colossal book, a geological library holding the memory of Earth itself. We have read this book and written a history from its contents, a familiar story of humanity's slow and steady ascent from primitive tools to the marvels of the modern age. It is a neat linear progression taught in every school and accepted by mainstream science. But what if some of the pages are out of order? What if, deep within strata of rock that are millions of years old, objects are found that simply should not exist? Anomalies, crafted with intelligent design, sealed in a time before the first human was thought to have walked the earth. These are the uncomfortable artifacts, the unsettling evidence that suggests the story we tell ourselves is incomplete. These discoveries are not just curiosities, they are profound challenges to the established timeline of civilization. They are whispers from a past so deep it has been almost entirely erased, hinting at cycles of history, of incredible technological peaks and devastating falls, long before our own recorded story began. Tonight, we journey deep underground into mines, quarries, and sealed rock formations to open the Earth's forbidden archives. Our investigation begins with an object so perplexing it defies all convention, a piece of advanced machinery found locked inside a stone that is 500,000 years old. It is an artifact that asks a terrifyingly simple question. Who was making spark plugs before humanity had even mastered fire?
The Corso Range of California is an arid, unforgiving landscape. It is a place of sun-scorched mountains and silent, sprawling plains, where the passage of time is measured not in years, but in geological epochs. It was here, in February of 1961, that 3 amateur geologists were searching for geodes, those unassuming, hollow rocks which sometimes hide a breathtaking interior of sparkling crystals. One particular specimen they collected felt different. It was heavy and seemed to contain something solid within. Back at their workshop, they secured the rock and prepared a diamond-tipped saw to slice it open. But instead of the gentle grind of cutting through stone, the saw blade screeched against something unyielding, something that had no business being there. When they finally broke it open, they stared in disbelief. There, perfectly centered in the geode, was not a cavity of amethyst or quartz, but a man-made object. It consisted of a central metal shaft encased in a sleeve of what appeared to be white porcelain, which was in turn surrounded by a hexagonal casing. It was a piece of intricate, machined technology, fossilized in stone. To the modern eye, the object bore an uncanny resemblance to a 20th century spark plug. And for mainstream science, this is precisely what it was. The accepted explanation is straightforward. The object was likely a spark plug from a mining engine used in the area in the early 1900s. Over many decades, water laden with iron oxides washed over the discarded plug, forming a hard, rock-like shell called a concretion around it. According to this view, the discoverers simply mistook this rapidly formed concretion for a much older geode. It's a tidy explanation that requires no rewriting of history, a simple case of mistaken identity. But the story of the Corso artifact is not so easily dismissed. The discoverers, who were experienced rockhounds, insisted it was a genuine geode, not a simple concretion. More importantly, They consulted a professional geologist who, after examining the specimen, made a staggering claim. The geologist dated the age of the geode's outer shell to be at least 500,000 years old. The implication was unthinkable. A machined object requiring advanced knowledge of metallurgy and electricity, existing 500,000 years before the dawn of Homo sapiens.
Further investigation only deepened the mystery. X-rays were taken of the artifact, revealing its internal structure with haunting clarity. The central metal pin, the porcelain insulator, and the hexagonal casing were all visible. But the images also showed something more. What appeared to be a tiny spring or helix at the upper end of the device, a feature not consistent with the 1920s era Champion spark plug to which it was compared. It was a machine, to be sure, but perhaps not one of our own. The greatest challenge to skeptics, however, is the fact that we can no longer study it. Sometime around 1969, the Koso artifact vanished. It has never been seen since, leaving behind only the original photographs, the perplexing X-rays, and a profound unanswered question. Without the object, we are left to speculate on its extraordinary origins. If we take the geologists' dating seriously, we must confront the possibility of a lost ancient civilization, a culture that rose to industrial heights in the Pleistocene era, a full 500,000 years before the first cities of Sumeria, only to be completely erased from the planet's memory, leaving behind only this single inexplicable remnant. Other, more fringe theories point to even stranger possibilities: an object dropped by a time traveler, or even wreckage from an extraterrestrial visitor left to fossilize over uncountable millennia. The Koso artifact is not just a singular puzzle. It is a potent symbol of a past that may be radically different from what we believe. It suggests that history is not a straight line of progress, but a series of grand, forgotten cycles of incredible achievement and ruin. So we are left with an enigma locked in stone. Was it merely a modern piece of junk fused inside a lump of rust and mistakenly identified by hopeful amateurs? Or was it something more, a genuine artifact from a lost epoch of intelligence on Earth? A piece of evidence so dangerous to the conventional timeline of history that it was, conveniently, lost forever? The mystery of a spark plug before fire is unsettling enough. But what if other artifacts point to intelligent craftsmanship from an even deeper past? Our journey now takes us from the rock of ancient California to the primordial mines of South Africa, to examine perfectly formed spheres that are said to come not from the age of humanity, but from the dawn of the Earth itself.
In the heart of South Africa lie geological formations of almost unimaginable antiquity. We are not speaking of millions, but of billions of years. Here in the pyrophyllite mines near Ottosdal, workers blast through Precambrian bedrock, strata that were laid down when the Earth was still a hostile alien world, and the only life was a simple scum of single-celled organisms. For decades, as they've carved into this primordial stone, they have found things that should not be there. They are small, metallic-looking spheres. Hundreds of them have been recovered over the years, ranging in size from a few millimeters to several inches in diameter. Some are a solid bluish metal with flecks of white. Others are hollow, filled with a strange, spongy substance that turns to dust when exposed to air. But their most remarkable and unnerving feature is the one that defies any simple explanation. Many of them are encircled by 1, 2, or even 3 perfectly parallel grooves running around their equator as if carved on a lathe. They were found encased in a rock layer dated to an astonishing 2.8 billion years old. The mainstream scientific explanation is, on the surface, quite logical. Geologists classify these objects as natural formations, called concretions. The theory posits that in ancient wet sediments, minerals like pyrite or hematite naturally precipitate molecule by molecule around a tiny nucleus, like a grain of sand. Over immense periods, this process can form a nearly perfect sphere. The parallel grooves, scientists argue, are simply the impression of the fine-grained layers of sediment, the laminae, in which the spheres formed. In short, they are a geological illusion, a pseudo-artifact created by nature that merely mimics the appearance of intelligent design. But the deeper one looks at the so-called Klerksdorp spheres, the more the natural explanation begins to fray. Rolf Marx, the former curator of the local Klerksdorp Museum who had accumulated many of these objects, noted their baffling physical properties. He described them as being so perfectly balanced that they would not move from their center of gravity, even on a vibrating surface. He famously claimed one sphere was tested and found to be balanced to within 1/100,000th of an inch, a level of precision that modern technology struggles to achieve, typically seen only in things like aerospace gyroscopes. And then there are the grooves. Can random sedimentary layering truly account for multiple, equidistant, perfectly parallel lines carved into the surface of a sphere? To an objective observer, they look less like geological strata and more like a deliberate engraving, either for function or decoration. The sheer hardness of the spheres, purportedly far greater than the pyrophyllite in which they are embedded, also raises serious questions about their formation. They feel less like a product of slow, gentle sedimentation and more like something manufactured.
If these spheres are not natural, the implications are almost too vast to comprehend. It would mean that an intelligent species capable of advanced metallurgy and precision engineering existed on Earth 2.8 billion years ago. This was a time before the first complex cells, before plants, before fish, before even the dinosaurs. It would be evidence of an intelligence so ancient it predates nearly the entire fossil record. Were these objects simple tools? Ball bearings for some colossal machine? Or perhaps something more sinister? Perfectly balanced ammunition for a weapon used in a planetary war we can't even imagine. The Klerksdorp spheres push the idea of a lost history beyond the story of humanity entirely. They hint at a deep, alien past for the planet itself, a chronicle of intelligence that may have risen and fallen long before our distant ancestors were anything more than chemical reactions in the primordial sea. So we are left with these impossible relics from the dawn of time. Are they a magnificent trick of geology? A coincidence of chemistry and pressure that forged near-perfect, grooved spheres? Or are they the last silent remnants of a world that existed before ours? An unsettling proof that we are not the first intelligence to call this planet home. The precision of these spheres speaks to a mastery of form. But other discoveries from a more recent, yet still impossibly ancient time, suggest not just a mastery of form, but of function. Our next artifact was not found by miners in primordial rock, but was blasted out of a solid stone formation, a strange metallic bell that rings with the mystery of an impossible timeline. In 1852, the town of Dorchester, Massachusetts, was a place of explosive industry. At Meeting House Hill, workers were blasting their way through a colossal deposit of what is known as Roxbury pudding stone. This is not ordinary rock. It's a Precambrian geological conglomerate, a chaotic fusion of stone fragments formed an estimated 600 million years ago, long before the first complex life crawled upon the land. Following one particularly powerful blast, as the dust and smoke began to clear, the workers noticed something extraordinary amidst the shattered rubble. There, in two halves, lay a small, metallic,
bell-shaped vessel, an object that had, by all accounts, been blasted out from the inside of the solid primordial stone. The object, which came to be known as the Dorchester pot, was a marvel. Standing only 4.5 inches high, it was composed of a zinc and silver alloy. Its surface was exquisitely decorated with detailed floral patterns and a wreath inlaid with pure silver. The discovery was so remarkable it was reported in the June 1852 issue of Scientific American, which described it as a curious and unknown vessel and noted the sheer wonder of finding such a delicate work of art embedded in rock that predated life itself. Today, however, the academic consensus tells a much less exciting story. The prevailing theory dismisses the original report as a simple, if spectacular, mistake. Archaeologists suggest the pot was not ancient at all, but was likely a more modern artifact, perhaps a candlestick holder or part of an ornate pipe from the 17th or 18th century. They argue it was never inside the rock, but was merely lying amongst the debris after the explosion. In the chaos and confusion of the moment, the theory goes, the workmen simply made an error, and a local legend was born from their misinterpretation. It's a rational explanation that requires no paradigm shift, just the acceptance of human error. But is it plausible to dismiss the direct testimony of multiple experienced quarrymen? These were men who worked with stone every day. To suggest they couldn't differentiate between an object blasted from the solid interior of a rock and one that was simply lying on the ground seems convenient. And the Dorchester pot is hardly an isolated case. In 1885, a similar story unfolded at a foundry in Austria. A worker named Riedel was breaking apart a block of tertiary period coal, many millions of years old, when he found a strange machined metal cube deep inside. Known as the Wolfsegg iron, the object was nearly a perfect cube, with a precise, deep incision running around its circumference. Like the pot, it was a clear product of intelligent manufacturing found where no such object should ever be. And just like the pot, its story was later dismissed. Skeptics now claim it was either a misidentified meteorite or, more likely, the discarded head of a miner's pick that fell into a fissure and became encased in lignite. Once again, the explanation defaults to a simple mistake, a misidentification by an unreliable, unscientific witness.
If we dare to take the original eyewitness accounts at face value, these objects tell a staggering story. The Dorchester pot wasn't a primitive tool. It was a sophisticated work of art, implying a culture with advanced metallurgical knowledge and a refined aesthetic sensibility 600 million years ago. The Wolfsegg iron, found entombed in the very fuel of the Industrial Revolution, hints at a forgotten industrial age in the impossibly deep past, a time of machines and manufacturing millions of years before our own. These artifacts, the pot from the pudding stone, the cube from the coal, begin to form a disturbing pattern. They are pieces of a mosaic of a forgotten history, one where high technology and refined artistry existed in epochs that our textbooks assure us were devoid of any intelligent life. We are left with two starkly different interpretations of the past. Were the stories of these incredible finds all just a series of unfortunate mistakes, tall tales, and amateur misidentifications? Or are they genuine, physical relics of worlds that have been lost to time, their existence systematically denied simply because they shatter the history we have so carefully constructed? The mainstream dismissal of these discoveries often relies on the idea that they are hoaxes or errors. But this raises an even deeper question. Why is there such powerful resistance to even considering the alternative? Our investigation must now turn from the artifacts themselves to the wall of academic silence that surrounds them, to ask why the verdict of science so often seems to be decided before all the evidence is heard.
Science, at its best, is a process of disciplined doubt. Skepticism is its most vital tool, the sharp scalpel that separates verifiable fact from fiction, wishful thinking, and outright fraud. For every extraordinary claim we have explored, there exists a wall of this powerful, necessary skepticism. It is a wall built of logic, reason, and a deep respect for evidence. But we must ask a difficult question. At what point does a protective wall become the wall of a prison, locking out any possibility that does not conform to our current understanding of the world? It is time to fairly examine the bricks that form this formidable barrier to a different version of the past. The primary argument used to dismiss these out-of-place artifacts is entirely reasonable. Nature is a master imitator. Geologists have a term for objects that look artificial but are naturally formed: geofacts. Through processes like concretion, minerals can aggregate into perfect spheres. Weathering and erosion can carve stone in ways that mimic tool use. The argument, rooted in the principle of Occam's razor, is that the simplest explanation, a natural one, should always be preferred over a complex, paradigm-shifting one. The second brick in the wall is the long and unfortunate history of hoaxes. From the infamous Piltdown Man to countless lesser frauds, archaeology has been burned before. This history has bred an institutional caution that borders on suspicion, where any anomalous find is immediately scrutinized as a potential deception. But the most powerful argument, the one that disqualifies most of these finds from serious academic study, is the lack of provenance. Provenance is an object's biography, a clear, unbroken, and professionally documented chain of custody from the moment of its discovery. The Koso artifact, the Dorchester pot, the Wolf's Seg iron, none of them have it. They were found by miners, quarrymen, and rockhounds, not by archaeologists during a controlled dig. They were often handled by amateurs, kept in private collections, and in some cases lost entirely. To a scientist, an artifact without provenance is just an anecdote. It has no context. It is, for all intents and purposes, inadmissible as evidence. And here we arrive at the great but. While these arguments are sound, do they not create an impossible catch-22? The very nature of these discoveries, found deep within solid rock or ancient coal seams, means they will almost never be found in a conventional archaeological dig. They are found by industrial workers, by accident. To demand that a 19th century miner provide the same level of sterile, documented provenance as a modern university team is to create a standard of proof that can never be met. This raises an unsettling question. Is the scientific method being used as a tool for open-minded investigation or as a gatekeeping mechanism to summarily dismiss any evidence that does not conform to our current understanding of the world? This phenomenon has been described by some researchers as a knowledge filter. It's not a conspiracy, but an inherent, subconscious bias within the scientific establishment. Careers, reputations, and entire departments are built upon the foundation of the current historical model. Anomalous data that threatens this foundation is not just an inconvenience, it represents a professional threat. Therefore, it is often ignored, ridiculed, or explained away with a zeal that goes beyond healthy skepticism. As the philosopher of science Thomas Kuhn observed, science rarely changes its mind gracefully. It progresses through violent paradigm shifts, where the old model doesn't just get updated, it collapses under the weight of too much contrary evidence. This knowledge filter ensures that the puzzle of our deep past is only ever assembled using the pieces that already fit the picture on the box. Any piece that suggests a different image entirely is discarded as defective. So, we are left to ponder the nature of this wall. Is it a necessary guardian of objective truth, protecting the integrity of science from a flood of fantasy? Or has it become a prison of dogma, preventing us from seeing a history of our world that is far grander, older, and more mysterious than we ever imagined? We have examined the impossible artifacts. We have confronted the wall of skepticism that is built to deny them. Now we must take the final, daring step. We must ask, what if they are real? It is time to venture beyond the wall and explore the breathtaking implications of a past we were told could never exist.
Let us, for a moment, step away from the safety of accepted history. Let us suspend our disbelief and engage in a breathtaking thought experiment. What if the skepticism is misplaced? What if the Koso artifact is exactly what it appears to be? What if the Klerksdorp spheres are not a trick of geology, and the Dorchester pot was truly sealed within 600 million-year-old rock? If even a single one of these out-of-place artifacts is genuine, the implications are not just profound, they are world-shattering. Our entire model of history would instantly become obsolete. The familiar linear progression, a slow, predictable climb from the Stone Age to the Bronze Age to the wonders of our modern world, would be revealed as a fiction. A comforting story we told ourselves based on incomplete and perhaps misleading evidence. A single, authenticated artifact from a deep, impossible past would prove that our civilization is not the first. It would prove that history is not a straight line ascending towards the present, but something far more mysterious, a great repeating cycle. This idea of cyclical history is not new. It echoes in the oldest myths and traditions of our world. The ancient Vedic texts of India speak of the yugas, vast ages of spiritual and technological enlightenment followed by dark ages of decline and collapse. Plato wrote of the magnificent island of Atlantis, a highly advanced civilization swallowed by the sea in a single day and night of misfortune. Cultures from every continent tell stories of a great flood, a global cataclysm that wiped the world clean to begin anew. Are these all just primitive fables? Or could they be the faint, distorted cultural memories of a previous cycle, the last surviving whispers of a global, forgotten civilization? But this immediately raises the most obvious and important question. If such advanced civilizations existed, where is all the evidence? Where are the buried ruins of their gleaming cities, the fossilized remains of their machines, the remnants of their vast road networks? The answer is as simple as it is humbling. Deep time. Our minds are not equipped to comprehend the immense timescale we are considering. What would be left of our own civilization after just 1 million years, a mere blink in geological terms? Our steel skyscrapers would corrode into dust. Our concrete highways would crumble and be overgrown. The relentless forces of erosion, glaciation, volcanic activity, and plate tectonics would grind our world into nothing. Over tens of millions of years, entire continents are subducted into the Earth's mantle, their surfaces completely recycled. The vast majority of any civilization, no matter how advanced, would be utterly and completely annihilated, leaving no trace. All that could possibly survive would be a handful of small, incredibly durable objects, or things that by sheer chance were fossilized deep within the Earth's crust, protected from the destructive forces of the surface. They would be found only by accident, in mines and quarries, exactly like the artifact we have examined. The scarcity of evidence, therefore, may not be evidence of absence. Instead, it might be the precise signature we should expect from a civilization that existed in the impossibly deep past. This new blueprint for history suggests a profound reevaluation of our place in the cosmos.
We see ourselves as the pinnacle of 4.5 billion years of planetary evolution, the first species to split the atom and reach for the stars. But perhaps we are simply the latest in a long, forgotten lineage. Perhaps we are a species with amnesia, unknowingly building our world upon the dust and bones of empires so great their existence has been erased by time itself. We spend so much time looking to the distant stars, searching for signs of other intelligent life. But maybe the greatest alien intelligence we could ever hope to find is the one that existed right here, beneath our feet, in the lost epochs of our own planet's history. This doesn't just change our past, it changes everything.
Our journey has taken us from the sun-scorched mountains of California to the primordial mines of South Africa and deep into the ancient rock of a 19th century quarry. We have unearthed objects that whisper of an impossible past, a spark of technology from before the age of man, perfectly machined spheres from the dawn of life, and delicate works of art sealed in stone for 600 million years. These are the glitches in our timeline, the artifacts that refuse to fit neatly into the story we have written for ourselves. We are left at a crossroads of belief. One path is simple, comfortable, and requires no revision of history. It is the path of dismissal, where every one of these finds is a mistake, a natural formation, or a clever hoax. The other path is far more unsettling. It suggests that our entire understanding of the past is fundamentally incomplete. It forces us to accept that we may be a species with amnesia, living amongst the ruins of forgotten worlds without even realizing it. The evidence is not conclusive, but the questions it raises are profound. What these artifacts ultimately provide is not a definitive answer, but a sense of breathtaking possibility. They suggest that our known history is not the story of intelligence on Earth, but simply our story. It may be only the latest chapter in a book of immense age, its preceding pages torn out and turned to dust by the relentless forces of time and cataclysm. The ground beneath our very feet is a library of these lost chapters, and we have barely begun to read. The search for knowledge continues, and perhaps the greatest truth of all is that the story of this world is far grander and far more mysterious than we have ever been told.